Today we're doing Math 6, Mission 4, Lesson 6, using diagrams to find the number of groups. All right, so 1 says, complete the tape diagram to represent the following questions. 1, we can think of the division expression 10 divided by 2 1/2 as the answer to the question, how many groups of 2 1/2 are in 10? Complete the tape diagram to represent the question, then answer the question. All right, so we have a whole of 10. That's our whole, okay? And then we want to split that 10 into 2 1/2 segments, group segments, okay? So when we do this, we need to look at, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 boxes, and we need 2 1/2 boxes for each segment. And when you do a segment, we want to know how many segments are in 10. So this is what we're going to do. We are going to color in 1 segment, 2 segments, and then a half of a third segment. And that will get us 2 1/2. Okay. Then we are going to continue that and do a half segment, and then 1 whole segment and another whole segment to get us 2 1/2. Then we're going to do it again. Here's 2 1/2 segments and 2 1/2 segments, and that equals 10. Now, they were very nice to us. They made it so that it was perfectly equal in there. So how many 2 1/2 segments do we have? Well, we have 1 here, we have another here, another here, and another there. So we have 4 segments of 2 1/2 in 10. So the answer to 10 divided by 2 1/2 is 4. We could also say 4 times 2 1/2 equals 10. And we can always check that by doing whatever our answer is times 2 1/2 to get 10. And if it gets 10, then we're good. All right, let's go on to number 2. Complete the tape diagram to represent the question. How many groups of 2 are in 7? All right, so how many groups of 2 are in 7? They're asking us to do 7 divided by 2. Okay? 7 divided by 2. So here's 7. We have our whole, right? Now, how many 2's can we fit there? Well, here we go. Here's 2. Here's another 2. Here's another 2. But they were not kind to us right now. They did not make it go evenly. So now we have this awful little thing right there, right? So up until this point, we had 1, 2, 3 whole groups of 2, but now we have this 1 left over, and we have to figure out what this 1 is. Now, in order to do this, we do not look at the whole anymore. You ignore that because we don't need that anymore right now, okay? That whole means nothing to us when we're trying to figure out this leftover square, okay? So instead, we are going to look here. We're going to say, how many pieces are in that one group, right? How many pieces are in this group? Well, there are 2 pieces in that group. And how many pieces here are there? Well, there's 1. So this red piece, we have to look at the number left over. So in this case, that's 1 over the number in a group. Well, how many pieces are in a group? There are two. There are two pieces. So this section right here is actually equal to 1/2 because it's 1/2 of the group. 1/2 of the group. Okay? So 7 divided by 2 is actually 1, 2, 3 and a half. 3 and a half. If this doesn't make sense to you, it's okay. We will be working in this for a while. It will eventually set in after we practice and practice and practice. Okay? But you know 7 divided by 2 is 3 and a half. But now I just showed you on a diagram how that works. All right, let's keep going. Activity 1. To make sense of the question, how many 2/3 are in 1, Andre wrote equations and drew a tape diagram. Okay, so we have two equations. Something times 2/3 equals 1, and 1 divided by 2/3 equals something. And then we have our diagram. In an earlier task, we used pattern blocks to help us solve the equation 1 divided by 2/3 equals something. Explain how Andre's tape diagram can also help us solve the equation. All right, so because Andre has his hole here, right, as 1, here's his hole, and he's broken it into 2/3 segments, right? So he has one group of 2/3, just like this, right? We can see a group of 2/3, and he's split his hole into 3 pieces, right? So you can see here's the 2/3, and we have one group of that. And then we have this leftover piece right here, okay? It is worth 1/3 in the whole, but it is worth something different for the group, right? So you can see that in his tape diagram, it shows the same thing that we were doing when we were solving with pattern blocks. So if we look at here, right, we have our trapezoid and our rhombus is 2/3, and then we have this piece left over here, right? So it's the same setup. All right, write a multiplication equation and a division equation. So both multiplication and division. You guys make a lot of mistakes and get points off when you don't do both the multiplication and the division equation. Okay, so make sure you're doing both. For each of the following questions, draw a tape diagram to find the solution. Use the grid to help you draw if needed. We are definitely going to be drawing these. Okay. Alrighty, so it says, how many 3/4 are in 1? So how many 3/4 are in 1? So if I'm going to write the division equation, it's going to be 1, because that's our whole, divided by 3/4 equals something. But I also have to write a multiplication equation. So I'm going to say something times 3/4 equals 1. Okay? All right, here we go. So as I go to draw, I need to break my 1 up into things that I can easily work with. So this is going to give me my hints. We're doing 3/4, so I really need to break this into 1/4. And how many 1/4 are in 1? Well, 4. So as I draw, that's what I'm going to do. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to be called my 1. Okay? All right, so that's my whole. And then each one of these sections is worth 1/4. Okay. Now, how many 3/4 are in 1? Well, we have one group of 3/4. 1, 2, 3, right there. Right? So that's a 3/4, which is 1, right? Because how many groups of 3/4? Well, there's one group of 3/4 right there. And then we have this 1 left over. This 1/4 left over. But that 1/4 is when 1 is our whole. But now 3/4 is our group number. So remember, when we are working with this, we have the number left over the number in the group. Okay? Okay, so that is the number left over. Well, there's 1 left over. And how many are in my group? 1, 2, 3 are in my group. So this is a third of the group. So it's 1 plus 1/3, which is 1 and 1/3. So how many 3/4 are in 1? 1 and a third. This is my answer. All right, let's keep going. How many 2/3 are in 3? So we have 2/3 in 3. So when I go and draw my whole, I could draw it like this, 1, 2, 3, and say this is 3 wholes. But then I have to divide these up so small, it's just not worth it. So instead, I am going to look and say, oh, my denominator is 3. So my 1 whole is going to be 3 boxes. It's just easier that way. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, there's 1. 1, 2, 3, there's 2. 1, 2, 3, there's 3. All right, so this is my whole of 3. Okay, now from here, we really need to break this apart, right? This says 2/3. So let's write our division problem. We have 3 divided by 2/3 equals something, and then something times 2/3 equals 3. Okay, so we know that we're trying to find 2/3 here. 2/3. So that means out of our whole here of 3, 2 of those are what we're looking for. Okay, so I am going to highlight 2 of those 3, right? So this is a 2/3, which is one group. Then we have 2 boxes, which is 2/3, which is another group. Oops, I don't want to say 2 there. I want to say that's another 1. Okay, then we have another 2/3, which is another group. So we're going to add another group. Then we have another 2/3, which is another group. But then we have this left over. Okay, so when we talk about this with our leftover piece, right, or however many pieces, because there could be more than one leftover piece. But in this case, there's only one. So we have the number of leftovers over the number in each group. So in this case, the number of leftovers is 1, right? 1. And the number in each group, well, there are 2 in each group. So this piece is worth 1/2. So if we add them all together, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 groups, and then 1/2 of a group. So 3 divided by 2/3 is 4 1/2. All right, how many 3 halves are in 5. Ooh, now we're working with an improper fraction. Ooh, still the same thing though, still the same process. So here we go. We are going to do 3 halves are in 5. So let's write our multiplication and division equation. So we have 5 divided by 3 halves equals something, and something times 3 halves equals 5. All right, so we have this 2 here, which means each of my 5s, right? Each of my groups of 5 should have 2 boxes in them. So here we go. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that is my 5 holes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So now, though, if this is our hole, we actually have 1, 2, 3 of them in each group. 3 of them in each group. Okay, so here we go. 1, 2, 3. So that's because it's 1 1/2 of 1, right? Because that's what 3 halves is. All right, so this is 3 halves, which is 1 group. Then we have 1, 2, 3, which is 3 halves, which is another group. Then we have 1, 2, 3, which is another group. And then we have our 1 left over. Now, remember, we're doing number of leftovers over number in a group. In this case, we have 1, 2, 3 in a group. 3 pieces in a group. 1, 2, 3. And how many leftovers do we have? Well, we have 1. So this leftover becomes 1/3 of a group. We have 1 of the 3 pieces that we need to make a group. So in all, 1 + 1 + 1 is 3 and 1/3. So how many 3 halves are in 5? Well, 3 and 1/3. All right. For each question, draw a diagram to show the relationship of the quantities and to help you answer the questions. So we are doing the exact same thing, except now they've taken away the grid and we have to do it on our own. I'm a little bitter about that. It's fine. Okay, here we go. It's just my lines won't be as straight. It's fine. Then write a multiplication or division equation for the situation described in the question. So you don't have to do both in this one. You can just do one or the other. I'm probably still going to do both because it helps me think about it. All right, so this says, how many 3/8 inch thick books make a stack that is 6 inches tall? So what they want is 6 divided by 3/8 equals what? Or what times 3/8 equals 6? Well, let's draw our diagram. We have 6 that we have to do, and they each have to be 8 boxes long. Okay, so here we go. We're going to do 1, 2, 3. I could stop at 3, and I'm going to show you why in a minute, but we're going to do the whole thing. 4, 5, 6. Okay, so now that I have that, I am going to divide these into 8 pieces each. So we're going to do a half. Ooh. That's not what I wanted. we're going to do a half, and then in half again, and then in half again. And that'll get me 8 pieces. So a half, half again, half, 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 half again, half, 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 half again, half, 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 half again, half, half again, half. All right, woo, that's a lot of little pieces. All right, so now that we have these, we have our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 inches tall, right? And our books are 3/8 inches thick. Okay, so it's asking how many books are there, right? Okay, so now we are going to start coloring in our 3/8. Here we go. So we're doing 1, 2, 3. So that's 3/8, which is 1. Then we're doing 1, 2, 3, which is another 3/8. Which is adding another one, right? So, and then here's another 3, and here's another 3, and another 3, and another 3. Here's another, and another, and another. See how I got to, oh, let me go back. See how I got to 3 and it broke it evenly for me? So how do I get from 3 to 6? Well, I multiply by 2. So whatever groups there is, I could have just multiplied that by 2, right? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 groups, right? And so I multiply 8 by 2, which gets me 16. So let's see if I'm correct. There should be 16 groups, but let's keep going to see. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. All right, so that gets us 3 groups of 3/8. So 1, 2, oops. Plus another 1, 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 plus another, plus another, plus another, plus another, and another, and another, and another, and another, and another. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Who would have guessed? Me, I did. Okay. So there are 16 groups of 3/8. So that means there would be 16 books in the stack. So that's our answer. All right. Whew, that was a long one. Let's go to the next one. How many groups of 1/2 pound are in 3 3/4 pounds? Okay, here we go. So we have our multiplication or division equation. So we are going to do 2 3/4 divided by 1/2 equals something, or something times 1/2 equals, 2 3/4. All right, so I need to draw 2 3/4 as a diagram. That's weird to do. We usually draw diagrams in whole numbers. So I'm going to draw them in whole numbers. So I could do 2, but then we'd have stuff left over. So I need to round up to 3. So that's how I'm going to start it. And then we are going to manipulate our diagram to show 2 3/4. So here we go. We have, oops, let's try it again. One, 2, 3. All right, so there's my 3. And I have to do 1/2 and 3/4. So I'm going to break this into fourths because it's just easier to do it that way, okay? So here we go. We have 1 4, 1 4, 1 4. All right. So here's the problem. This is 3 holes. I don't need 3 holes. I need 2 3/4. So here's 1, here's 2, and then I have 1, 2, 3, 4 fourths, but I only need 3 of those. So I'm actually going to cut it right here, and then we are going to ignore that extra box because it is actually not a part of our equation, not a part of what we're trying to do. Okay, so now we have our diagram set up and we are ready to start. So how many 1/2s are in 2 3/4? Because now this right here is 2 3/4. Okay, so here we go. We have this as a half. Now, why did I put 2 in the half? Well, because we split it into fourths, and 2/4 is the same as 2/4 is the same as 1/2. So we need 2 1/4 to equal 1/2. Okay? So there's 1 1/2. Here's another 1/2 and another. Here's another and another. So right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 1/2s, but we have this 1 left over. Okay, so if we're talking about this, we have the number of leftovers over the number in a group. So how many are in a group? Well, there are 2 in a group. And how many do we have left over? We have 1 left over. So this would be a half, right? So we have 5 groups total plus a half of a group. Okay, so how many groups of 1/2 pound are in 2 3/4 pounds? Well, 5.5 groups. That's our answer. So 2 3/4 divided by 1/2 is 5.5. All right, write a question that can be represented by the division equation 5 divided by 1.5. Then answer the question, show your reasoning. So you can do a lot of different ones. You can show me, you can write the question. I'm not gonna write the question, we're just gonna solve the problem. You need to write the question though. You need to come up with a question. All right, here we go. So we have 5 divided by 1.5. So I need 5 pieces. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, and then we are doing 1.5. So I'm going to split these into 2 because 1.5 is the same as 3 halves. Same thing. So I'm going to divide these into halves, and we're going to go from there. All right, so we have our whole, which is 5. And then as we're doing this, we need 3 halves. So here we go. 1, 2, 3 halves. Here's another 3 halves. Here's another 3 halves. But they were not kind to us, and we do have this leftover piece. So this is 1 1/2. That's one group. This is 1 1/2. So that's another group. This is 3 halves, which is 1 1/2. So that's another group. But then we have this 1. Now remember, number of leftovers. So our number of leftovers is 1. And the number in each group is 1, 2, 3. So this is plus 1/3. So that's 1, 2, 3 and a third. 3 and 1/3 is our answer. Okay, please review your lesson summary.